good. It's good to meet you.
It's good to meet you too. How are you?
I'm just fine. I'll tell you that your new recording, your new record is as good as anything that I've heard from you, and that's saying a lot. Honestly,
Thank,
it's. I was astonished
thank
to
you,
know
Steve.
that you guys recorded that this year.
There's pictures of us in the studio. I got videotape of it. I'll make a video of the title track at some point. And in January, the whole thing was done with masks. And I didn't know that we could do it. Like, you're in the studio and the AF of M rules are if anybody sings in a room, no one's supposed to go in that room for an hour.
Wow.
Well, so we had to, when the guys were doing backgrounds, James Maddock, Johnny Paisano, my bass player, and Frankie Lee, they were all in different rooms. Johnny was in a closet, but it came out great. But we had masks on the whole time. And you figure you're in there a 12-hour day with a mask on the whole time. And we got it done. And it was just, I'm so excited about the songs. And when we rehearsed, I thought this is going to be something. So it was glorious. But yeah, we made it in January during the pandemic with masks. Yeah.
When did you write the songs?
Most of them were written recently, like the title track I wrote in June, The Day the Earth Stood Still. I wrote in Italy in the fall, October, November, early December. I wrote about 4 of them, finished some. The last song, Way of the Heart, is from 2009. I wrote it then and recorded it then and forgot about it. And last summer when I was putting the record together last summer, I thought I had the makings of what could be a good collection. And I came across the Way of the Heart and I thought that could be a nice ending for this story. The title track, The Day the Earth Stood Still, I have a storage space near the Lincoln Tunnel, the Holland Tunnel in Manhattan, which is where I am now. And on a Friday night, any given Friday night, it can take 45 minutes to go 3 blocks, and for like a half a mile in every direction, it's just a parking lot. Well, on this one, it was in May, and New York was shut down, ghostly, fascinating. I really thought it was incredible. And you'd have told me 2 years ago, oh yeah, the city's going to completely shut down and there won't be much traffic, if any, and very little humans walking around. Impossible. And it was just, I found it really interesting. Anyway, I come out of my storage space near the Holland Tunnel on a Friday at 6 o'clock, and I stopped. I got to the corner. I looked uptown and downtown, not one car in sight on a 6 o'clock Friday night. I could have laid down, and I thought, wow, The Day the Earth Stood Still. The great old sci-fi movie,
Sure.
From 1951, the early one. And I had the song floating around in my head. And I was coming in June. I was coming from a doctor's office up Fifth Avenue, way up. Got a cab coming down. And it was around the time of the marches and some riots and looting and whatnot. And Fifth Avenue was boarded up all the way down. Very few people. I just thought The Day the Earth, and the song came to me in that cab.
It's apocalyptic. It sounds, apocalyptic.
Yeah.
It is. I think it's fantastic that New York is still inspiring artists to make good music, because you've seen the city in so many different forms.
Yeah, it's a great city. It's ever changing. It's everything changes. One of the songs on the album, Expect Change. I'm a philosophy major, University of Buffalo, years ago. And the last 2 years, I was taking philosophy courses, Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, Eastern mysticism, whatnot. And it always struck me that the one thing that's constant is that everything just keeps changing. People die, buildings fall down, the earth, the planets, whatever. And expect change because it's coming. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It can be great. It can be terrible. It can be a nightmare, or everything in between. And this city, it's withstood this. This has been a nightmare that the planet's been going through. I love the city. And even when the streets were empty, I felt this great energy here. The history always speaks to me here. Edgar Allan Poe lived in that building, that kind of stuff, you know.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
especially the downtown area, it was such a sort of the county seat of some of the great writers and Bohemians and even pre-Bohemian types.
You know the story, one of my favorite stories of New York, Washington Square Park, which is just a couple blocks from here, the Arch, one night in 1917, Marcel Duchamp, Cubist painter, he painted New Descending Staircase, which is in Buffalo. I grew up in Buffalo, so I saw that every time I went there. And there are a group of playwrights, like a couple of playwrights, the director of the Provincetown Playhouse, about 7 or 8 people. They went to the Washington Square Park Arch in 1917, one night, snuck into there's a small door, went up to the top of the arch, hung Chinese lanterns and balloons, read a proclamation declaring Washington Square Park to be, it was either Washington Square Park or Greenwich Village, I think it was Washington Square, to be an independent republic for Bohemian artists. That was the wording in 1917. So it really goes, it's deep. And there's a building on the corner where the NYU library now was a building in the 1800s called the House of Genius, a rooming house where artists, scholars, painters, crazies, wannabes, genius, whatever. They call it the House of Genius. So there's a rich history, which I love to this day. Yeah.
Did Buffalo have any allure or intrigue for you as a kid before you ever came to Manhattan?
A lot of allure, yes, a lot of magic, because I'm one of 8 kids, big family, really large family, very close, large extended family. We still go on vacation together every summer. There's like 105 people.
Wow.
And it's like, and everybody gets along. It's very old school, deep. And the house I was born in, when I was born, we lived in the house. My mom's parents were upstairs. So I was born in 48. And so as a kid, those first 5 years, when they had neighbors over every weekend, friends, so I saw these people get along. An older, the early part of the 1900s, I feel really connected to because of the experience of being a little baby walking around, observing these people all getting along, selfie-facing, humble, very neighborly.
Irish?
Totally Irish Catholic, and my father's father, Dick Noonan, was a orchestra leader for over 20 years in Buffalo. His brother moved from Lowell, Massachusetts to Buffalo to find work in 1915 because the mills were closing. And he told his brother, Dick Noonan, my grandfather, come to Buffalo. So he came in 1916. My dad was born 1917. Dad is still alive. I talked to him. I'm going to go see him tomorrow. I'm flying to Buffalo. 103 and a half years old, still with a sense of humor, living home. One of my brothers lives with him. He's doing great, goes to church every day, this guy. And he's still funny. He leads with humor. But his father was this wizard piano player. And he used to take my dad and one of his brothers 3 or 4 nights a week to vaudeville shows to get them out of their hair of their mother. This guy worked six days in the post office and 7 nights in vaudeville, orchestra leader. And my dad, to this day, tells stories. Oh, they'd have a movie, clown act, a comedian, someone will make an elephant disappear, show the movie again. So for me, downtown Buffalo, to this day, these great old theaters, Chase Buffalo, the town ballroom, these old places, and there's great old architecture in Buffalo, and it's a very transitional city in that it was like the gateway to the West, the gateway to from the East, the gateway to Canada. They would go through Buffalo. The Marx Brothers played Buffalo.
I was just going to ask about that. I was going to say, if your grandfather, he must have been on the same marquee.
His brother was the orchestra leader at the Chase Buffalo, which is a classic, world-class, old school. I saw In Excess in that place. I was downstairs, and I thought that the upper thing there was plaster falling. I thought this is going to collapse. And my grandfather, my great uncle was the orchestra leader there, and so the things they saw, and I've asked my dad, any idea did Grandpa or a great Uncle John play for the Marx Brothers? A good friend of mine, Robert Bader, a great writer, is a Marx Brothers expert. Any Marx Brothers production has him credited. And he is in the process of putting together a vaudeville book. It's like, and he couldn't find it. I'm sure they played Buffalo. They toured a
Oh,
year.
they had to. Buffalo and Chicago, that's where I'm at right now. There's a certain similarity because you guys don't sound like you're from Brooklyn or the Queens. You know, there's like a Midwestern vibe. And if I hear an accent, it's either Detroit, Chicago, or Buffalo, you know, that are similar, you know.
Yeah.
But that's really fascinating. So you get out of high school, what, like in 66? How'd you get out of Vietnam?
I was 66. I graduated from high school and I went to college. I goofed around in high school. I was smart enough where I didn't have to study. I could just get by on my wits, but not good enough to get in any of the local colleges in Buffalo. And Walsh College in Ohio, north of Canton, farm country, had just built a new dorm. So all the losers would go, they needed students from out of state. So me and all the troublemakers went to this for 1 year. It was really difficult. 3 miles from the Hoover factory, north of Canton. The interesting thing about that, and it fascinates me to this day, was it just seems like a lost year, but my roommate played the guitar and taught me how to play the guitar. That's where I learned the guitar. And it really was life-changing. And I transferred back to Buffalo and went to school there. I graduated in early 71 and moved to New York right away. I wanted to make records, and Buffalo has a great fascination for me. I'm flying there tomorrow. It's a great.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting place. Again, well, I think it's Thomas Kennedy, but he's an Albany guy, the writer, I believe so. Anyway, I think he wrote Ironweed, but that didn't. I think that took place in Albany. But,
yes, Ironweed was Albany.
Yeah, were you a rock and roll fan? Because it's like the stuff that you were putting on from early, even the stuff that you're playing now. And I can't believe, I always think that I'm hearing a live show. That's like where I suspend, reality when I'm hearing a record, like the day that the earth just stood still and you're describing guys wearing masks on, and I just think I'm thinking of a bandstand, everyone out there together. It's got that kind of sound. But were you into, rock and roll, like when you were in high school, or was it more of the poetry that you got you into songwriting?
Absolutely rock and roll. I mean, I had older brothers. And so I actually saw Elvis Presley on what Ed Sullivan show. I saw that. I saw him on the first. I saw all the shows he was on. I saw those, and I saw it hit, and I saw the reaction, the people around me, the people talking to school. I saw how he affected the culture, and I thought as a kid, I go, well, he doesn't seem like a bad guy. It's not all that terrible. The music's totally great. It's way fun. And I mean, Little Richard, Everly Brothers, Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, give me a break. The father of rock and roll, that guy. And, his influence on everybody. I loved all it. Jerry Lee Lewis, because I had piano around me. And to hear Jerry Lee Lewis by Great Balls of Fire, it was like mind blowing. And then, Buddy Holly, I'm official ambassador of the Buddy Holly Educational Foundation.
You're kidding. Wow.
No, I mean, my first record was, I bought Peggy Sue. I took 2 quarters to Cabbages. My folks were they went to Italy. They went to Rome for some conference. And we were staying, they farmed us all out to friends and relatives. I mean, they just took us in. Me and one of my brothers were not far from Cabbages, this record store. And I went and I bought Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly. And years later, 2011, at South by Southwest, this lawyer friend comes up to me and says, I want you to meet somebody. And he said it in such a way, I go, okay. He goes, this is Maria Elena Holly. I almost fell off the floor. Wow. And she's a dear woman. She wanted me to sign my CD for her. I'm thinking, whoa. No. Anyway, she's a wonderful woman. We became friends. And she wanted me to be one of the official ambassadors. And Buddy, I just took a guy this morning, this fella up to where Buddy lived on 9th Street, and 5th Avenue. And he lived there.
That's where he lived?
Before he died, 6 months before he died. There's the 4th floor, another window. I actually walked up. I had a picture of me outside his apartment door. The head of the Buddy Holly Education Foundation got me in there, and I was crazy about rock and roll, crazy about it. I grew up with a lot of boogie woogie, ragtime music. Mom always played classical music, so there was always music in the home. And my brothers played the radio, the records, Rumble, Link Ray, give me a break, that there's so much great music. So I grew up with that stuff. And then when the Beatles hit, forget it. British Invasion, I'm one of those kids. The British Invasion hit me from what we had: Motown, British Invasion, all kinds of extraneous,
like R&B and blues and soul and all that stuff.
Everything, all that great stuff. I mean, and it was all mixed. AM radio was really great back then. So yeah, I was that, and I love classical music. When I was 5, I wanted to be a classical pianist. I do concerts and I'll play the occasional grand piano, baby grand, and I made it top of the world, ma. And, yeah, I was a huge, am to this day, a fan of rock and roll of all kinds, blues, soul, R&B.
You forgot the name of this song, but one of your lyrics always stands out for me. I sometimes, just to be irreverent, someone will ask, where are we going? And I said, we're going to go see Elvis and the Reverend Green, talking about, I forgot which song that is.
Yeah. That's how, let's see. How is this?
Well, you wrote it, so you'll figure it out. But I said that to my 6-year-old daughter at the time, and she's like, "What?" I said, "Never mind. We're going to Grandma's house."
It's American Ride.
Right. Did in all your travels, speaking of Buddy Holly, did you ever get to Clovis to see where they recorded?
No, not yet. Not yet. I'm going. I've been to Memphis. I went to Sun Studios. That's a place I'd love to go. I'd love to. I love the old stuff. Those records to this day, my goodness, they still sound amazing.
The last time I was in Nashville was quite a long time ago, but I was staying in just some middle of the road hotel, and I'm going up in the elevator and I'm talking to this old guy wearing a cowboy hat. And I introduced myself and he said, I'm Tommy Elskis. And he was, the other guitar player on the Winter Dance Hall tour. Tommy Elskis. Wait, was it not Tommy Elskis? He's a musician. Alsop, Tommy Alsop.
He was, whoa.
He was the one who gave Buddy his wallet and booked the flight. And then the story went that Richie Valens wanted to go on the flight and he kept bugging him all night, or he was bugging somebody. And because there's always a difference between, what Dion DiMucci said and then Tommy Alsop, and they make such a big deal about it. It's still a tragedy. But I always wonder what Buddy Holly would have done, because he was in New York at the most exciting time and everything was changing and he was into recording. What do you ever think about that?
That reminds me all the time. That reminds me, my friend Richard Barone is writing a book about New York, music in New York in the 50s and 60s. And he wrote me, let me get off the phone. I'm going to reach out to Maria Lynn, his lawyer, to see if they ever got back to him. He wanted to know from her, did Buddy go to see the clubs? Did he go to see, some of the local jazz guys? There's a place, Cafe Bohemian, reopened last year and a half ago, and all the jazz greats played there. It's haunted. I played a song there on one of the online shows we put out in February. And he wanted to know, did Buddy go to the clubs? Did he go to the, any of the, I asked Maria Elena, I said, Maria Elena, where did you guys go to dinner? What did you do? You lived like 4 blocks from me. Where did you eat? Did you cook a lot? And she said, Buddy, we used to eat in the local restaurants. Buddy would walk to Washington Square Park with his guitar all the time and sit and play. And people didn't know who he was. She said, kids would always come up to him and say, but he would teach them stuff, ask them questions. And that's where they got the idea of starting a musical educational foundation at some point. That was always their dream, to help kids, teenagers who want to learn music. I mean, I was talking to my buddy today, like, could you imagine the music he'd have written, the time that he was here? My goodness. I mean, the whole thing exploded, the folk scene, Dylan, that whole thing, I mean, what would Buddy have done? I mean, my goodness, the music he would have made, because he seemed like he was changing as when he died, he was, doing all kinds of string stuff. And he was a 22-year-old kid who wrote 36 songs in 18 months.
Yeah, True Love Ways. Like whenever I hear that, it just gives me the chills. It's so haunting and beautiful. And yeah, he was only 22 when he died.
22, and he wrote 36 songs in 18 months before that. And what he would have done, like the James Dean question, same thing, what would he have done? But Buddy Holly in particular influenced the Stones, the Beatles, Dylan, everybody, this kid from Texas who really, yeah. I mean,
But this kid from Buffalo, that being you, between 59 and the time you moved to New York in 71, I don't think in my time, because I was born in 70. So I do remember sort of the end of that 70s hippiedom into the new wave and punk stuff, which really appealed to me. Yeah. And then there were because I grew up, my parents were the 50s. So I remember everything with Sha Na Na and like American Hot Wax and all the great stuff. And that obviously drew me to the likes of like the Springsteens and the people who were bringing back like the 3-minute tunes. And as I was listening to some of your songs, I know that you're associated with Bruce. If he hasn't said it, I bet you there are songs where he said, I wish I wrote that one about yours, because there's just some of them,
Yeah, you say that.
I know, but I was thinking, because it's all the stuff that I like, because it's about fun and just, but also the lyrics that you write are very introspective, and you have this appreciation for history and all that stuff. But what did the whole hippie thing kind of like impact you in a positive way? Like when the rock bands were getting a little more like ethereal and like the songs were becoming longer?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, that there's a guy making a documentary about me, right? I remember asking him, I met him a couple of years ago. Well, I met him to say no. I didn't know he was. I don't just need a movie made because I'm
right.
Need to be on the screen. I'm not that guy. I'm about the songs, it's not about the stardom for me. And he said, because you never gave up, you persisted, and you're doing your best work now. So the story of you as an artist living in modern day New York intrigued him. Anyway, Bruce was in my dressing room last January. We were doing a Parkinson's benefit, which she's been so generous with. For 20 years, we've done this benefit, raised, millions of dollars for Parkinson's research, ALS, and he's been so great about it, and really helped. They built that on Bruce's shoulders, that he would show up. This friend of mine, Bob Benjamin, a friend of ours, got Parkinson's at 36, and the journey he's been on these past 20 years has been heartbreaking, and he's been so courageous about it. And Bruce loves Bob, and anyway, Bruce was in my dressing room. We were going to play. He was going to play one guitar with me on stage, and Lucas said, "Can I film it?" And I said, "Hey, Bruce, can we film it?" So we had 2 guitars, and we're playing one guitar, which he's sung with me on before. So it was refreshing. I played the song. We finished the song, and he goes, "Man, I wish I wrote that one."
Oh, really?
I wish I wrote that song. God bless him. He's generous man, always been so good to me. And to answer your question about the change from the music and I saw the evolution from the 50s to the 60s to the British invasion, party music, soul music, to the protest years and that whole Vietnam era. And it was considerable. Talk about, these days, it's so sad. I was commenting with this guy earlier. It's so sad to me that there's such a divide. It doesn't need to be this way. As Bobby Kennedy would say, we can do better than this. We're all people. Come on. Anyway, it is what it is. And back then it was a huge divide. And the hippie thing, I just liked the music. I liked a lot of it. Some I didn't. I was more of a rocker, but I liked all kinds of music. I was at Woodstock. I saw that whole thing go down. I was there for a day. My brother was getting married the next day. That was something else. We were leaving.
Park? How did you get? Was it just as messy as everyone says?
That's a question. Yeah, we were driving. The word at the time, there was no word festival back then. It was like we're driving. My older brother Richard, God bless him, his buddy, a lawyer, was driving a old yellow Mercedes-Benz convertible that belonged to Senator Daniel Moynihan, because he was he was dating his daughter, something like that. And so my girlfriend and I and John Gorman were driving, and we're on our way to New Paltz or something, Newburgh, New York. And he goes, there's this thing going on, a festival. The Who are going to play. I went, the Who are going to play. You want to go? I go, yeah, let's go. So we just made a detour. I didn't know. I hadn't heard a word about it. So this is Friday. No, Friday morning of the first day of Woodstock. So
when's your brother's wedding? The next day?
Saturday morning around noon or 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Wow.
So we go there, and they said they're announcing on the radio the throughway's closed. Now it's a free festival. There's so many people, so we just drive and drive and drive, and we just kept on these country roads, car after car after car, TPs everywhere, and we parked. People were looking at our yellow Mercedes convertible, old jalopy, thumbs up. It was really beautiful to see. There was a real unity, one of those moments where people felt like there was a change was happening in the culture, and that change for better, with compassion maybe being the driving force. That was a sweet moment. And we parked the car. How we ever found that car is beyond me.
Yeah,
So
I was thinking of that.
we're walking through fields, through TPs. People got, fires going and stuff. And we're walking through the woods, and there were Christmas lights tied through the woods like a path. Follow the Christmas lights. And we get to this open area, and there it is before us. This incredible, 500,000 people, whatever it was. And we just made our way down, and we were right in the middle, center stage, back maybe 200 people. And we were there, and we stayed there overnight. I don't think I moved till the next day. We slept overnight. My girlfriend had an apple core in her hair when we woke up.
Oh, really?
It was a light rain. People were passing around wine, joints. It was really, the sense of community was considerably, it was really moving. I thought,
Could you hear the music?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I saw
Who played the first day?
Richie Havens was so great. Richie Havens eventually recorded my song On the Road to Calvary. I knew Richie was one of the sweetest guys. He recorded my song, which meant the world to me. And Joan Baez played, Tim Hardin played. He wrote, If I Was a Carpenter was a hit by Bobby Darin at the time. And he played that. Lady Came from Baltimore.
I just had a gig the other night, and I played Black Sheep Boy, which is one of my favorite Tim Hardin songs.
He was really scared to say. He kept putting it off. He finally, I could tell he was in bad shape.
Really?
Got to see Tim Hardin, yeah. And Joan Baez, we saw some Swami Satchidananda spoke during daylight hours. Richie Havens was amazing. And they, Richie, they sent him, he was done. And they said, no, go back out. We got to kill time. And he went back out, and he made up that song about, the famous song they played, Mother. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
Yeah. Freedom.
Incredible performance.
Yeah. Or Handsome Johnny. That's a beautiful song too.
Unbelievable. And so there was a lot of music, but I think Arlo Guthrie played, some bands played. Then they said, and there was announcements every, little while. Hey, don't take the brown acid. People, it was so organic and make it up as you go. And it was a beautiful moment,
But the village, the downtown music scene that you sort of, happened upon when you first got to New York, a lot of those characters were still walking around, weren't they? Obviously, yeah. Richie Havens. How did you start to constellate with some of the people that you grew up listening to? Was it just, I'm here, I'm playing?
What was interesting to me, because I used to hitchhike down from Buffalo, when I was a teenager, just to hitchhike down, sleep in the park a couple of nights, go to the hoots, the clubs, just to I remember pulling the first time I came, and my brother eventually got an apartment. My older brother had an apartment in White Plains. And so for my girlfriend and I, we stayed there a couple of months. We'd come in to try to find an apartment, and anyway, I hitchhiked a couple of summers down. But when we moved here, it was 72, June. And the vibe was very much Ghosts of the 60s. It was like a cloud over it. It was like real sensitive folk, precious stuff, which I'm fine with. But I'm a guy who liked the Who and the Kinks and the Stones. But I dug it all. And I played an acoustic guitar. I never played in a band. So I would go to the open mics where the acoustic guys were. So I had a ton of friends who were really great people, great songwriters, singers. I learned a lot. And I played CBGBs before it became the punk mecca that it became. I would look in the Village Voice on a Wednesday, see where can I go play? And there was this new place, CBGB Unplug. It was a cool ad. And so one Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon, I took my guitar, walked down about 3 in the afternoon, walked down Bleecker Street all the way to, it's right in front of me here, walked to the Bowery, walked right in. There's a woman behind the bar and two geezers at the bar drinking. And I said, hi, who do you talk to get to play here? She said, oh, that would be Hilly. I told Hilly the story the last night of CBGB's. And that's when I saw him. I realized he was sick. He really was dying.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was sick. And Hilly was always good to me. So I walked in and she said, oh, that would be Hilly. He's in the back. Just wait around. He'll be out. So I got a beer. I sat down. I'm waiting. Like 20 minutes goes by. I went to the jukebox. Greatest jukebox. Amazing songs in the jukebox. The last song on the jukebox was two songs by a guy named Hilly Crystal. I thought, well, how many Hillys are there in the world? So I put in about $3 a quarters and I played the same song for like 10, 15 times.
His song?
Yeah, one song, the same song over and over and over. I put in $4 a quarter. So I sat back, I'm having my beer. And after about the 8th time the song plays, out from the back comes this grizzly bear of a man. He obviously just woke up, messy hair, beard, pissed off, like, what the fuck? And I walked up to him and go, hi, are you Hilly? He goes, yeah. I go, I like your song. I like your song. And I go, how do you get to play here? He goes, get up on stage and sing. So I got up on stage, I played a song. He goes, you're hired, So I come back on such and such. So I came back a few nights later, and at the time there was a black jazz professor who was playing there in evenings, and Hilly said he'll set you up. So, I played, and as I played, I couldn't see the audience, a couple of people, and then a bunch of people came in I couldn't see. When I was done, I got good applause. They were respected. They dug it. And it was a bunch of Hell's Angels. The room was full of Hell's Angels. I didn't know that, thankfully.
It was a biker bar. Wow.
It was they right around the corner was their home, their building. It was a Bowery bar and a Hell's Angels bar. And I think a couple months after that, Tom Verlaine and Richard Lloyd and their manager Ork came in and they asked, could they build up the stage? And that's when it began. I loved it.
Did you feel a change in the air when those?
Absolutely. I had one foot in the folk scene because I didn't want to join a band. I couldn't afford the players. I just wanted to sing my own songs. I never did a cover. I was there to sing my own songs. That was it.
Did you write with bands in mind? Like, were you thinking like, okay,
absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. Every time I played, my story is I came here to try to make records, never having been on stage, totally naive about all of the above, never played, I couldn't sing. I'm not a singer. I can tell stories. So I had one foot in the folk world, I'd say the acoustic world, and one foot in the electric scene. I went to CBGB's 3-4 nights a week. It was great. Friends with bands there, I remember crawling on the floor drunk at 4 a.m, looking for my glasses, whatever, and seeing all these legendary bands play. It was Patti Smith. Television would open up for Patti Smith. Mm-hmm. Richard Lloyd and Tom Verlaine would get there early. They'd get on stage and the two of them would be jamming. And there was maybe 10 people in the place. I'd be going, whoa.
That Richard Lloyd, he's the guitar player. He's fantastic.
Unbelievable. Those two guys, I would watch them play. The place would levitate.
Really?
I would call my friends. The phones were near the front door. The stage was in the back. I literally would go to the phone booth at like 1 a.m, dial my buddies in Buffalo. You got to come to New York. Listen to this. I'd hold the phone out, and he started playing Marquee Moon. The place was like, I told all my folkie, all the friends, you got to go. There's these kids with ripped up clothes. Not one person went. Nobody went. Not curious. I go, it's your life,
Yeah, I'm by myself. Yeah. Wow.
I loved it. It was so great. So the Ghosts of the 60s was a drag for me. I remember being on stage once. I would play, like, I wrote rock and roll songs. I wrote all kinds of songs, boogie woogie songs, ballads, love songs, political songs, non-political songs, Saturday night party songs. I remember I sang Dear Lord, which opens up my first album. It was on my first album, second song. It was at the old Cafe A Go-Go. And it was this, they moved it upstairs. And I got my 3 songs. I played them. And the guy, the DJ, the guy who was announcer said, we'll have some more guerrilla music for you in a little bit. I wanted to get my guitar and smash him over the head with it.
Like, oh, because you were singing a gospel song or something?
No, because I was rocking and rolling.
Oh,
I jumped off the fucking stage, man. I would play my songs, Lord, give me money. Dear, you know, I sang, Dear Lord. It was rock and roll, you know, Chuck
yeah.
Berry stuff. And I played the piano, and I thought, these guys. And the next weekend, I went to the bitter end to sign up for open mic. You'd sign up. And the week before, I had to wait till the wee hours to play. The guy would put his friends, this other MC would put his friends in front of you. So I'm in line there. The guy said, what's your name? I said, my name's Bob Noonan. He goes, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. He didn't care. And I said, it doesn't matter. You can make any name up. He goes, oh, no. It's really important what your name, you know. And he gave me this little 2-minute Las Vegas lecture. I go, oh, yeah, okay. Well, my name is Huey Rosenbag. He goes, what? Rosenberg? No. Huey Rosenbag, like the pitcher's mound. The next week I was Mo Downs. The next week I was Umberto Snorts. I made new names up every week because I refused to play this fame game. Refused.
I love it. How did you settle on
one of the names? I was watching Search for the Nile. This great PBS documentary about the search. Richard Burton and Speak, this other guy, these explorers looking for the source of the Nile. Mm-hmm. It's a fantastic 13. We couldn't wait to see it. And one night I had a dream, Willie Nile, and I thought that's a good rock and roll name. It appealed to my philosophy to say something's nihilistic. That made me laugh.
Yeah,
and it's also it removed me one step away from the pretense of like I'm not in this for the fame game. The music means something to me. I'm more interested, you know, I would spend hours reading in the library, writing poetry, you know, Rimbaud and Whitman and you know.
It wasn't dollar driven, your pursuits. Is that why you think, does that explain your longevity? I mean, I think your genes
absolutely
explain how you look. You look great and you sound.
It's my hair, but it's not my color. I color my hair, but.
All right, don't want us to know.
But I don't care.
I'm joking.
I know, but you know, it's like, it's real. I don't hide my age. I am who I am. And there's no question at all for me whatsoever that obviously I've been knock on wood, blessed with long, you know, my dad's 103.
I know. Yeah.
Mom was 87, but my drive, you can hear it in my voice. You can see it in my face. You can hear it. I made 4 records in the last 5 years.
It's inspiring to me, dude. I think I love this stuff. In fact, I was watching. Did Andy York play with you for a while?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yeah. The Worry Dolls. I had a great band, the Worry Dolls. I had all these songs, you know, written, and I thought I'm going to play these out to see what it's like, just to hear them out live. So Andy was my buddy. I put a band together, and I called them, you know, Willie Nile and the Worry Dolls. I thought it was funny, and we were just playing the local places, and it was so good. I said, we should record these. Let's make demos. And my drummer, Rich Pagano, had a studio. And we did a 1-inch tape. And it was so good. I thought, I'm releasing this. You know, some friends convinced me you should put this stuff out. I did under my own label. And that began my independent. Andy York is a monster guitar player and a sweetheart of a guy.
Well, yeah, the stuff it's definitely seen him. I remember when it might have been like 15 or 16 years ago that I saw Ian Hunter in Chicago, and he was with him, and Ian Hunter played a song called Wash Us Away, which had just probably written in 92 or 93 or whatever, or maybe even way later. It's one of the great albums, and he was already in his late 60s, early 70s. It's fantastic.
The thing with Ian stopped touring in the fall. I was going to open up a big show for him at the Capitol Theater. Ian was a big fan, and he's given me quotes in the past. Ian continued to he just turned 80.
Yeah.
In June in 2019, and he was still on as edgy as ever on stage, writing new songs that was good as ever. You know, had a great band, and he got killed by tinnitus. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh yeah.
He a big thing when he said he can't go to the post office. He was in such
agony.
Ears. It's like a subtle pain in the ears. He just got slammed with tinnitus.
Yeah.
And he stopped touring. They canceled the tour. I don't know if it'll ever play again, but at 80, he still rocked. A total inspiration and still writing great stuff. Me, 4 albums in 5 years. World War Willie, Positively Bob, the Dylan cover record.
I love it.
Children of Paradise, last year New York at Night, and this year the Earth Stood Still. It doesn't make any sense.
What's your secret, man? I need to know.
The secret is I'm here to support the songs. For me, music helps me make sense of the world, whether it's a Richard Thompson song, a Stone song, a Ramones song, you know, a Dylan song, Randy Newman song, Frank Zappa, whatever, new, old, you know, you can hear it in my voice. I'm still the same kid who came here believing that music could transform one's life, the world. My concerts and my band now, look out. I'm telling you, we're playing in Chicago. Is Chicago home for you?
It is now, yeah.
It
always was. I was in LA and then I came back here, but yeah, I grew up around here.
We're playing in Evanston at Space.
Right near there.
October, I think we got shows 15, 16, 17, or 16, 17, 18 in Ann Arbor, Chicago, another place. We're going to do a tour. This band, I'm telling you, it's worth flying to see. Jimmy K. Bones on guitar. If you any the videos we're putting out, you know, the stuff, the shows we've been putting out online. Johnny Paisano on bass, John Weber on drums, 4-piece, killing it, having fun. So I think the secret is, I believe that music can transform. It's changed my life, and the shows we do, I want people to come and be exhilarated and leave happier, better, more fulfilled, whatever, inspired. And when I sign CDs at the end of the show, you can see it. This fella today told me a story, and he was tearing up telling it to me. He said, I saw you play in Fairfield, Connecticut a couple of years ago, and you were at the piano, and no, there was a woman in front of him. That happened later. There was a woman in front of him by herself, and they got to talking, and she said, I'm here. My mother died last week. And I said, I got to go see a Willie show. I need to feel better. I can't just sit here. And she came out, and 4 guys in front of her heard her tell him that. So they knew me. So they came backstage and told me. So during the show, I played The Crossing, which is the song I wrote for Gangs of New York.
Mm-hmm.
Film. Didn't get in the movie. It almost did. But it's about like the Irish coming across the ocean. You know, whether it's a personal story, someone dying, a crossing over. And I dedicated it to her mother. You know, this guy was crying today, telling me the story, tearing up.
That's a beautiful story.
I dedicated it to her. You know, it's meaningful to me. You know, I never thought I would play again when I wrote that. My mom died, you know, and yes, I am playing again. I picked it back up again. So the music inspires me. I'll go till I drop, no question. You know,
what was your dad? You know, were your folks? Obviously, you said your mom was music. Your dad had vaudeville in his DNA, at least from his father. Were they, because you talk about a disconnection of generations. That was a way different generation than the post-war one that you were born into.
Absolutely, totally different. But I understand them both. I grew up, I saw it with my own eyes. I heard it, I smelled it, I tasted it. My folks, dad was an accountant, you know, a really good man. He had, you know, he says, I don't have a musical bone in my body, but it must have come through me, because his father I saw him do it, would put a white sheet over the piano and play the keys. It was an old parlor trick in vaudeville. He could do it. And it was always upbeat, like spirited. And my mom's dad was in vaudeville. He was a dancer and stuff. And great people, old world, the sense of neighborliness I really got from them.
Were both your folks Irish background? Mostly.
Dad.
The storytelling, did that come out in family dinners?
Absolutely. My father, to this day, if you met me in Buffalo and sat at my dad's table at his home, where he's lived 14 years since mom died, and, you know, being there in the home, being able to still be there and live, he's doing fine. He's getting more forgetful, but storytelling, he can tell you who played third base for the St. Louis Cardinals in 1931 in some play that went down. But the modern, the current stuff he can be forgetful about, but he's totally great. And he has a great way of telling a story. I mean, he would enchant us. He'd tell us stories going to bed, you know, the Galloping Goat, you know, Red Grange. It's definitely the oral tradition.
The Galloping Goat.
He got his, Red Grange, he got his from his father. and his brothers all were storytellers. Definitely the Irish tradition came through.
Yeah. Speaking of Buffalo and piano, did you know Stan Celeste?
I met Stan one time. He used to play all the time in Buffalo. You'd see Stan Celeste, or whatever the band was. Then he joined the band.
Mm-hmm.
And, Jules Shear wrote that beautiful song when Stan died.
Oh, Too Soon Gone?
Too Soon Gone. Wow, good memory.
Well, I'm friends with Levon's wife, Sandy, and I told her that I was going to talk to you today. She said, "Oh, I love his music."
Oh, God bless her. God bless Levon. He was so. I came across 2 pictures of me and Levon, and
You got to send them to me because I'll send them to Sandy. She would love him. Anyway,
I'll find him. He was always so good to me, and it was when he wasn't speaking. He was playing drums. It was a charity. There was a benefit for Alejandro Escobedo years back, and someone in the audience kept yelling, "Let Levon sing!" And I'm going, "Oh my God!" I couldn't speak at the time. Levon was always so nice to me. Bear hugs. Welcome to Woodstock. So friendly. One time when I opened up for him, I would tell people I was an apostle of Levon. Mm-hmm. I would say, if you want to go on a Saturday night to find the soul of music, it's rock and roll, soul, whatever, go to Woodstock, go to Levon's barn, go to one of the Rambles. And my Spanish guitarist, when I toured Spain for years, Jorge, he flew over with his wife New Year's Eve and he went to a Ramble. Smart guy. He said it was life-changing. So I did one of the Rambles. Jimmy Vivino played guitar for me for about 2 years. Great guy. And Jimmy can't help but play. I'd see him at a cafe. "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm playing at Mills Tavern." Some dive, playing with somebody for nothing. He just loves to play, Jimmy. And I opened up with the band at the Woodstock Playhouse. And after that, we go back to Levon's barn, and we're settling up, and I'm in Levon's kitchen, and he's rolling these joints, and like I had smoked in years,
It's probably good weed too.
Oh my God. And in college, I smoked bales, I'd smoke buildings.
But it wasn't that strong, was it?
It was so strong. And I had to drive back that night. And me and dear Frankie, we just did it to partake. Once I moved to New York, it was too intense. I'm not smoking anymore, so I stopped. And so I had to drive back. So Levon, this was 2006 because I had the Streets of New York album, and I said, "Levon, this is for you." And he looks at it and he goes, every time we put one of these out, it's a victory. It's a victory. And he meant it. That's the difference. If you mean it, and Levon always meant it. Didn't Suffer Fools, his book, that's one of the best rock and roll books ever. You have the heart of a rock and roller, and
thanks.
There's believers. I'm one, you're one. And whether people make music or not, there's believers in music and how it can be transformational. Levon, my God, Levon. I wrote a song called "When Levon Sings," and Amy gave me a great quote for it. It's on World War Willie. "When Levon sings, gates blow open and something got wings."
Where was this? Where did you record that? Up in Woodstock?
No, I make all my records up in Weehawken at the Hobo Sound, which is above SST, right across the Hudson. When Levon sings, Levon sings. Gates blow open and we all got wings. Dun, 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 the guitar, some of the guitar sings. The sun is going to shine when Levon sings. Once upon a time was a drummer in a band, played to the promised land. Some at the crack of a snare. When you hear lightning, that's Levon's snare. Oh,
it's
yeah.
Like a good version of the Elton John song "Levon."
I'm proud of it. And Amy gave me a great quote for it. I'll send it to you. I'll send you the MP3.
So you're in a good place. You're thrilled about the album. You're excited to get back out.
On the moon.
You ready?
Oh, more than ready. We play more than ready, and the band is on fire. And one interesting thing, over this past year with no concerts, to survive, we've been doing, was doing every 2 weeks and one a month, these online shows. At some point, we'll make them all available. But I did 2 solo shows in a studio, 7 camera shoot, studio audio, telling stories, playing acoustic guitar. How I started on Bleecker Street. I did 2 of those shows, May and June. And then I did 2 duo shows with Johnny Paisano. We still do so many duo shows. I filmed 2 of those. And then we did 4 or 5 full band shows in a club, 10 camera shoots, multi-track audio. They're great documents now. And I did 2 live from the streets of New York, one 2020 in November.
You were playing piano on one of those songs. I think it was Streets of New York, right?
Yep.
Yeah, because I saw there was some video sampler from like 2013 or 14, and I think that's when Andy York was playing. It sounded so fucking good. I mean, it was really, really great.
You know, what's the band has learned so many more songs from my catalog. There's so many songs, you know. And now when I play the shows now, we played 2 shows April 14th, the New City Winery here in New York. It's a temple. It's Steve Earle was saying the other day. Steve lives around the corner from me. God bless Steve Earle.
How's he doing? I always think about his son.
I always think about his son as well. And I thought, my God, that poor man, you know. I did a gig with Justin Townes Earle, you know, a couple of years we played in Ann Arbor. And
he wrote great songs too. They were very deep.
The deep songs. And my old guitar player lived across the hall from him. And I thought, my God, poor Steve. I wrote him when that happened. Steve's doing great. He's got another son, you know, that he takes care of 24/7.
He's autistic, isn't he? I think.
Very nonverbal, very autistic. He's 12, great kid, John Henry. And this guy is a devoted father.
Yeah.
Single, taking care of this kid who's a handful, big kid. And Steve, like, I see him coming back from Yankee games with the kid. It's 24/7. And
God bless him.
God bless him is right. He's a great father. And he's devoted. He's doing great. You know, he's carrying on. And, you know, I've seen 2 clips of him singing songs online dedicated to his son. And at the end of each one, he said, that's for you, cowboy. I'll see you when I get there. You know, Steve's an inspiration, and he's surviving that. Horrifying. I mean, I've got 4 children, 4 grandchildren. I can't even imagine losing any one of them, you know.
I have a 10-year-old daughter. Yeah, it's really...
It's the unimaginable. Steve's doing great. He's doing great. He's in good spirits. He can't wait to get out on the road, nor can I.
Whenever I think of Steve Earle, no matter all the great stuff he puts out, I was thinking of, there's a line in that song, Sweet Little 66. You know, he says, you could, you know, take your Subarus and your something, but I'll be cruising down the back roads with my baby and me and my sweet little 66. It was just like, fuck the foreign cars. This one was built on American soil. He's playing that role, you know, in the song. It's just, he's phenomenal.
He's the real thing. He's an American treasure. He really is. And we're lucky to have him. And it's the nice thing about the Village now. He lives right, I see him, we're neighbors, right around the corner from me. Little Steven lives up 2 blocks away. You know, it's nice that, because a lot of the musicians have moved out. Things changed. It's more gentrified. But Patti Smith lives 2 blocks away. You know, so like there's still the spirit of creativity is alive and well, you know, in the Village. And Steve's doing great. And for him to sing on Blood on Your Hands was a real gift to me. He couldn't have been nicer about it. Let us film him the whole time. And it was perfect for him. His voice right in his wheelhouse. You know, the spirit of the song, everything about it.
I hear you they play you on the Underground Garage a lot. And I always, you know, Steve Van Zandt, another great, I mean, way underrated producer, writer, everything. I think his last record sounded like all that great Southside Johnny stuff that he produced early.
Absolutely. The last record he put out, the records he's making, and the band, the touring he's been doing, once we're all gone, it'll be recreated down the road, but he lived it. He saw those soul bands in the 60s. He lived that. He knows it. And the band he put together, my goodness. And he is like, he's the godfather of the history of rock and roll. I mean, that station he's got is great. The stories he tells. Every time they play a song, they mention the producer, the players. I mean, it's like, it's respectful. It's informative. It's fun. It's got spirit and soul. Can't ask for much more than that. Little Steven's killing. He's killing.
We're lucky to have you too. I'm thrilled that you were able to. I'm thrilled that, you know, when Carrie brought your name up, I was like, yeah.
Well, That's great. I appreciate that. You know, I appreciate you taking the time, and
Anytime.
I'm excited about the song, the new album. I'm really thrilled with it.
Yeah, you should be proud of it. It's one of those.
It's as good as
I tend to get cynical in my as I just turned 50, but just cynical in that I want to hear artists that I've always heard still creating, not resting on their laurels. And that only comes out of people who are deeply passionate, like we mentioned Steve, and you. It's never about career or what the kids will buy and all that other shit. It's like, it's the best.
That's not the best stuff. The best stuff comes from inside the heart, from your
No,
own.
what I'm saying is that this stuff is the best that I just heard.
I love it. So this is as good a record as I've made, and so we're going to be in Chicago. When we get off, I'm going to send you the song I wrote about Levon. I mean,
Awesome.
I remember having a conversation with Jacob Dylan about his dad once Levon died. It was not long afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Who's my dad going to hang out? You know, I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you in New York if you're here.
Yes. Have a good week. Have a great weekend. And I'm going to listen to your record some more.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Willie.
See you on the trail.
God bless.